Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. We are going to 1974, our favorite hard and heavy. Well, we'll see. We'll see how hard and heavy they are. Albums released in 1974, 50 years ago this year. Let me introduce the crew. The Kansas here, Chris Canzaneri. Rob Lasante is here. Butch Ho Jones, looking kind of green, is here. Drinking bourbon. Our center square, Count Ralphus himself, Ralph Tambora. Stephen Keeler's here with Daisy. What's going on? Ryan Scow, that mustache is coming in hot and heavy. Look at that. And Jim Bakke is here from the West Coast. What's going on, gentlemen?
What's up, Pete?
How are you?
Going.
1974. Would you all agree? Pretty damn good year for music.
Not
Oh,
bad.
yeah.
A lot
Most
of good
definitely.
albums, a lot of classic albums, a lot of good debuts, a lot of good hard rock albums, and all sorts of other stuff. So everybody's picked out their favorite 5 releases from 1974. We'll go 2 trips around. The first trip, do your 5, 4, and 3, and then we'll do our 2 and 1 to finish this out. And we're going to start with the Cans himself. Kick us off with your first 3 here.
All right. I got to shuffle here. Hang on. All right. Usually when we do these things, some people say you can't pick a live album, and I usually agree. But my number 5 here is a live album where every single song has been basically completely reworked and barely even resembles the original. So this is Lou Reed's Rock and Roll Animal. This is where, every young kid who likes guitar playing learns about Hunter and Wagner. 2 guys who have done great things here and done great things with Alice Cooper and a bunch of other artists. But this is a very cool album if you like hard rock guitar playing. And if you like Lou Reed, you may listen to this and love Lou Reed. I saw Lou Reed live many years ago and I fucking hated him. He sucked. He didn't do anything like this. But this is killer. Check it out. Okay. Number 4. David Bowie's Diamond Dogs. This is, it's got Rebel Rebel on it. Everybody knows that song. A couple of the classics on here. Me personally, Sweet Thing's a killer song. This is kind of his interesting glam era, this and Ziggy Stardust and whatever. Very cool album. Check it out if you haven't. And my number 3 is, yes, Relayer. This is a kick-ass album. They, I think it's their first album with Patrick Moraz on keyboards, and this guy lit a fire under the band's ass. Everything on here is excellent. Killer album. Love it. So, Relayer, number 3.
One and only with Mr. Moraz, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We're off to the races. Rob, what do you got for your first 3?
All right. Well, it's funny that Cans just showed Relayer. I thought about that one too. That was going to be one of my picks, but I went with Deep Purple Burn from 1974. Martin Birch engineered this album. I don't like it as much as In Rock and Machine Head, but I do like this album a lot. John Lord's great on it. Richie, Ian. It's a great album. Don't like as many songs as the other albums, but Burn might just take your What's Going On Here, Mistreated. Those are all great songs. And so that's really that's my first pick. And like I said, this was hard because I was gonna go with Yes, but I wanted to keep it more rock instead of proggish. So the next one for me is to me, this is a classic. I don't think there's one bad song on this album. Every song is great on this, even the slow jams on here. In fact, it was rated by Kerrang number 40 all greatest albums of rock. Well, they said metal albums. I don't think it's a metal album. I think it's a hard rock album, but that's Kerrang for you. But there's every song on here. Can't Get Enough, Rock Steady, Ready for Love, Don't Let Me Down, The Way I Choose, Bad Company, of course, Moving On, and Seagull, which is a great Paul Rodgers classic for me. I love that song a lot. So that's my second. And then this one was hard too, because Rush for me, I really got into them later. 2112 is when I got into Rush. But over the years, which has been many, obviously 50 years, I've gotten more and more into this album. You know, it was the only album that Rutsy did on here, and then Neil obviously toured after that. But it's raw. It's like, for me, this is Rush at its rawest. You know, more hard rock, more kind of like that real, just almost like Zeppelin or Triumph or something like that. You know, just that real hard rock edge to them. And I don't know, I just like this album a lot, more so as I got older, and because I was always more towards the other albums, but this is really a great album. So those are my three picks.
Yes, sir. We got some good
Starters.
stuff so far. Butch, your first three.
Hello, everyone. It's been a while. Number 5 for me is Bad Company, debut, Mick Ralphs, the legend that was already Paul Rodgers that completely solidified his rankings of the greatest singers of all time on that album, without a doubt. Everyone knows pretty much every song on it. If you've ever listened to classic rock radio, you probably heard them all. So number 4, Sweet Fanny Adams.
Oh, great pick. Wow. Nice.
A band still in this country, in America, they never got their just due. Like a lot of bands that I love, they're known for 2, maybe 3 songs. And if you mentioned 2 of those 3 to people, they're like, I don't know who that is. I've never heard it before. And then you hum it. Oh, yeah, I know that song. It's like, yeah, of course you know that song. So that's not number 4. Number 3, where did I put it? Number 3 is, here we go. He got this stupid light again. Deep Purple, Stormbringer. I really got to buy a ring light, man. I'm telling you, I hate doing this. But anyway, you get the idea. Stormbringer, the second album from 1974 from Purple. Honestly, my second favorite Purple album of all time. I'm a huge fan of the Hughes Coverdale era, the era that made Blackmore go and start Rainbow, which is hilarious, but that worked out okay. So good enough for me. But those are my first 3.
And I will tell anybody who has not listened to that Sweet album, quite frankly, the one that came after that and the one that came after that, really kick-ass albums. Really, really, it's a great choice. All right, Ralph, over to you.
All right, talking about Sweet, I got Desolation Boulevard. Now,
the other ones,
with-
yep.
like when I did Rock Fantasy Files, we had an episode where we were doing 1974 album battles, and I was listening to this one on YouTube, and I guess it's like a mix of the one that Butch was holding up.
That's
right?
why I didn't
It's
pick
like-
it.
Yeah. It's when I listened to it on YouTube and then somebody else bring it up, they had a totally different track listing and everything, but I love this album so much. It took me 50 years to find out about this album. I always considered them like a Slade band or something. And if I didn't do that episode on the Rock Fantasy Files, I would have never really gave it the time to look at it. And I was blown away. Every song on both versions was like really great, really good hard rock. And I wish I would have had this for years and years. Yeah, so many of the great songs on there. Fox on the Run. When I seen the Guardians of the Galaxy, the commercials for it at the time, they playing that song in the commercial, and I thought it was the Ace Frehley version. Like I didn't even realize it. That's how close he did it, but it was a Sweet version. And they had that song AC/DC. That was kind of weird. And Sweet FA, that has a lot of crazy lyrics. Set Me Free, that's another great one. No You Don't, another great one. It's just a great album.
They are so heavy, and people don't understand how heavy
Oh,
that
yeah.
band really, really was. I
It
mean,
just rocked the whole album. It's
they
amazing.
influenced so many bands that we all grew up loving, and you didn't realize that they were either covers or whatever. But yeah, man, that's a great
Yeah, I
record.
hear a lot of like one song I'll hear something like it sound like Twisted Sister was influenced by that song, and then another song by you could hear other bands like the influence, like you're saying. So
Definitely.
my number 4, I'm gonna go with Blue Oyster Cult, Secret Treaties. What did I write for this one? Just Career of Evil, Astronomy, Dominance and Submission. This is just an amazing album. I love the whole vibe of the whole album. And Eric Bloom just turned 79 this week, and Buck Dharma's 76. But those guys are getting up there. But yeah, this is a fucking great album. And then my number 3, I'm going with Rush, the only album with John Rutsey, like he was saying, before they got that no-name guy to replace him. This is definitely their best drumming. Now, the drumming is great on this, though. I really like it. And it's like he was saying, it's stripped down, raw version of Rush. It's not overly produced. A lot of great songs on it. This album, when I got into it kind of late, but it made me want to go back and get everything by Rush once I got into this one. But yeah, so that's my 3.
Awesome. Steve Keeler.
Hey, how's everybody been? It's been a while since I've been on too, Butch, and good to see everybody.
Yeah.
Took a little hiatus, been so busy doing everything else, but it's good to be back. And it was a topic that I thought was interesting. And yeah, the Sweet Desolation Boulevard, we actually compared that as a 74 album on my channel, but realized that the US version didn't come out till 75, and it was completely different. So I didn't include it tonight. So, but yeah, that album's killer.
Yep.
I knew about it. I was one of the people that knew Butch, and I had that on 8-track back in the day. And I mean, that was one of the best, heaviest records back then.
Yep.
But yep, for sure. So starting out at number 5 for me is Leonard Skinner, Second Helping. I don't think anybody's mentioned it tonight yet. Southern rock. I mean, it's got songs you don't ever want to hear if you listen to PDH. Sweet Home Alabama is probably on every half hour, but Working for MCA, Don't Ask Me No Questions, I love a lot. The Needle and the Spoon, Call Me the Breeze. So that's my number 5, Leonard Skinner. Grew up with listening to that a lot. So coming in at number 4 will be Bachman Turner Overdrive, Not Fragile.
Good stuff.
Now, if we're doing this show in 1974, this might have been the number 1 album because I listened to this continuously back then when this came out. And some of the highlights, of course, the song Not Fragile comes out. Such a heavy song. And then you got Roll On Down the Highway. Of course, the radio hits You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, which you hear a million times. Still, Freewheeling. Side 2 starts out with another heavy song, Sledgehammer. And we were talking about this on my channel a few months ago. And actually, this went up against Sweet Desolation Boulevard. And I think Aerosmith, Get Your Wings. And Daddy Barth had some great conversations about this because he actually met and knew the Bachmans from back in the day. So he had a good conversation about that. So I'm going to go with
Randy Bachman turned 80 yesterday. He just turned 80 yesterday.
Wow. Well, anybody we're talking about on this channel tonight, on this episode, is probably in that ballpark. Unless they were like 5 years old when they recorded it, right? So then we're going for number 3. I'm going with Kiss solo album, or the Kiss self-titled, rather, not solo, self-titled. And I mean, it's got so many great songs, starting off with Strutter, Nothing to Lose, Firehouse, Cold Gin, stuff that was still on their playlist when they were out. Deuce, Love Theme from Kiss, which is kind of but you got 100,000 Years and Black Diamond that close it up. It's a production, the best in this album, no, but that's the songs and everything. It ranks a little bit higher on my list than Hotter Than Hell. So those are my 5, 4, 3s.
All right. Got lots of classics here so far. Ryan.
Oh yeah.
All right. Got one that hasn't been mentioned yet, but it's a lot of good prog albums from 1974. And this is definitely one of my favorite prog albums ever. It's the second album by this band, and the band is Camel, and the album is Mirage. I think it's the best album, although they had some really quality albums in the early 70s. The songwriting it's tight as a drum. Like sometimes you think of prog, and one of the things you could say if you're not a prog fan is it kind of meanders, right? Some of the songs get overly long and lose themselves. I don't always agree, but the songs on this are fairly short. Like 5 minutes, 6 minutes. One of them gets over 12 minutes, but for the most part, they're pretty compact. I want to say Doug Ferguson, Andy Ward, the rhythm section on this album, ass tight, just tight as a fucking drum. Sounds so good. They work together so well. And the song Super Twister has a flute solo, and it doesn't suck. It actually really adds to the song. It works. So that's my number 5. Definitely one of my favorite prog albums. Number 4 is an album that one of my favorite bands, but I feel like this album gets shit on a lot. Just doesn't get the attention it deserves. And admittedly, it's not one of their best, but I still think it's very good. It's the 7th album by this band, and it is Wonderworld by Uriah Heep. Still David Byron on vocals, sounds great. Is it as good as Demons and Wizards or Magician's Birthday? No, but I think it's still very, very solid. Some great songs on the Suicidal Man, Dreams, The Shadows in the Wind, and even the title track. David Byron sounds awesome. I'll admit Ken Hensley's keyboards not as memorable as some of the earlier Heap albums, but I still think this is a great album. And I think it does get kind of shit on or just ignored unfairly. If you like early Uriah Heep, I'd put it, pretty high on the list. So that's my number 4. And it was mentioned, but I'm going to mention it again because it's a great album. It's my 2nd favorite by the band, and it is, again, their 7th album, Relayer by Yes. Awesome. I think the the first track, Gates of Delirium, is amazing. And the second song, Sound Chaser, maybe the heaviest Yes ever were. And Chris Squire on that he's a fucking clinic. His bass playing on that second song is out of control. Probably my 2nd favorite Yes song after the song Close to the Edge. It's unbelievable. But all 3 songs are great. Alan White's great on drums. And like it was said, Patrick Moraz on keyboards really lit a fire under these guys' ass. So yeah, number 3 for me is Relayer by Yes.
And one of the great Roger Dean albums.
Yeah, iconic. I thought I had it on vinyl, and turns out I don't. I only have this nice gatefold or this Digipack CD. But yeah, artwork is awesome. So there you go.
All right, Jim, what do you got?
Okay, so I got the late homework assignment of adding 2 records, and a couple of these I had thought about while I was picking the 3. Obviously, the Bad Company one was almost too obvious for me because I listened to that so much as a kid. And again, Desolation Boulevard, both of those were in consideration when I was going through them. But I guess my number 5 is going to be Burned by Deep Purple. Like some people said, it's, some people don't consider it one of their greater albums. But for the song Burn alone, it's my favorite Deep Purple song. So, I think it's a great record through and through. I mean, you got all those great songs on it. I thought I had it in my collection, but I don't. But I know when I had it when I was a kid, and often I'll just go put it on the iTunes on the phone and listen to it. Because the song Burn alone, the fact that Ian Pace basically plays a drum solo through the entire song and just completely shreds, like, I'm just going to play a drum solo while you sing the verses and maybe go into a beat while you sing the chorus, deal with it. And it's like one of my favorite drum songs. So Burn is my number 5 because of that. It's such a great record. On my number 4, I'm going with this Peter Frampton record. It has a lot of the songs that ended up on Alive, and Alive has obviously the definitive versions of these songs, but like I'll Give You Money, Show Me the Way, what up, Penny for Your Thoughts, that little acoustic thing, Baby I Love Your Way. The studio versions are, most people prefer the live versions. I do love the studio versions of those songs. And there's other ones, One More Time, Nowhere's Too Far From My Baby. This is a great, great record. It's the record he was touring when they made Alive. And I believe this was recorded in Headley Grange, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta look. Where does it say? It was recorded in a castle. It may not have been Headley Grange, but it has a big cavernous kind of sound on the drums. Great record, Frampton, self-titled Frampton, 4th Frampton album, by the way. And then my number 3, which is where I was going to start today, and I thought I also had it in my collection. I've had like 5 versions of it on vinyl. I don't know why I can't find it. BTO Not Fragile. Has pretty much all the classic BTO hits. Thank you. And imagine, hearing You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet on the radio, buying it for that, and dropping the needle on song one, which is Not Fragile, which is one of the heaviest songs of that era of 1974. That riff alone. And then that amazing, I just love the guitar solo because it's two people playing lead at the same time, completely different things. And it builds up and it's so badass. Like, I love Not Fragile so much. But pretty much every other song on that record is great. Sledgehammer, the instrumental Freewheelin', Blue Moanin' is a cool kind of boogie song. And of course, you got probably my favorite BTO song, Roll On Down the Highway. Anytime it comes on the radio, it goes to 10. Fucking love it. So those are my three: Burn, Frampton, self-titled, and BTO Not Fragile.
Awesome.
I actually saw BTO recently down in Jersey at the Montclair
Uh-huh.
the Wellmont Montclair. It was fucking great. It was really good. Place was sold out. He played a lot of Guess Who songs too, so it was like BTO Guess Who. But
Wow.
yeah, it was a cool show.
I remember Pete's a rant about that, saying it's not really BTO. You're playing Guess Who songs. I wanted to go. They played the Orange County Fair a few years ago. I really wanted to go, but I just never got to see them. I would like to see them because
At this point, it's all you're gonna get. And I don't know how old he is now, but he's got to be up there. But
I know. And to get
He
Turner
just said he turned
and
80.
Randy Bachman
Oh,
together.
there you go, 80. Yeah, it was cool. It was a fun show though.
Did he sit down for the whole
Turner
performance?
sound?
What's up?
I said, how did Fred Turner sound?
He sounded good. And he was sitting for most of the performance. Yeah.
Sitting. Wow. Okay. So,
Yeah. But still sounded, the band sounded good, sounded tight. Couldn't complain about the performance at all.
What happened to Blair Thornton? Does anybody know? I mean, he was the guitarist on all those great records. It's just like he disappeared after a while, and then you never hear from him again. Like, he was such a good guitar player.
I'm sure there was some kind of lawsuit going on somewhere. It seems like everybody in the Guess Who or BTO have sued each other.
Look at that. Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
That's my Bachman Turner Overdrive 7-Eleven Rock Slurpee cup from back.
What year did you buy that?
Holy
Th-
crap.
1974.
Actually, these
gotta
were
ask.
released in let's see, what does it say here? Let me get a little more light on the subject.
You know, you're big when you're having when you have a 7-Eleven Slurpee cup.
76.
No, you're a huge fan.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
That's
people don't
a fair
realize.
statement. That's a
No.
fair statement.
Well,
It's
I
either-
have
it's either
the,
that or
I
he
have,
really wanted a Slurpee.
I have the Yes Slurpee cup too.
I didn't
I have-
even name
I have-
it.
Yes,
I
had
have
a
the whole-
Slurpee cup.
That's a
Holy-
Yes Slurpee cup, yeah.
That's
I have
rough.
the whole set of the 7-Eleven Slurpee rock cups that came out in 75. so.
If you
Not
guys
all
have
of them are
not
rock.
seen, if you guys have not seen, there is like a documentary film that came out in 1974 about BTO on the road.
Okay.
Go find it on YouTube. It's amazing because people don't realize, like, they hear the songs on the radio. Like in 1974, when that album came out, they were like one of the biggest bands in the country, if not the world. They were huge. And you watch that documentary, they're flying. They got their own jet.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, once you have Taking Care of Business come out the year before, and then those songs,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess, but people don't realize because they kind of went away after that, and they didn't go past 77 really, or 79, but
Mm-hmm.
they were a huge band. I mean, when I was a kid, they were on the radio all the time, and then Let It Ride, which is another great one.
Oh yeah.
They're so good. I think people kind of, at least in the 80s, I think people kind of thought of them as kind of a joke. Oh, BTO Taking Care of Business. Because every garage band, that was one of the songs they played. Because it's
Mhm.
3 chords and it's
Mhm.
amazing. But anyway, yeah, I'm a huge BTO fan. So
All right. My number 5, we're gonna go to Wales. Budgie in for the kill.
I figured I'd see that on your list.
Yeah, of course. Gotta be. Such a heavy album. It's my favorite album by the band. And I tell you, folks watching, if you're into like heavy 70s music and you never listen to Budgie, man, you are missing out. One of the unsung heavy bands of this era. You had another Tony in this band some of his riffs were just as heavy as Tony Iommi's. Title track is amazing. Crash Course and Brain Surgery is great. Zoom Club is great. Hammer and Tongs. They got ridiculous song titles, long song titles, but man, just so heavy. And Burke Shelley, the bass player, he had this kind of like high pitched voice, kind of like Geddy Lee, just so good. In for the Kill by Budgie is my number.
And if anyone's never heard it, go on YouTube and look up Van Halen doing In for the Kill
Yep.
from like 75 or 76. It's tremendous.
Yeah, it's such a
Tremendous.
barnstorming heavy riff. It's just
Oh,
And Van Halen doesn't change it. They played it exactly the same way, and it just shows you how heavy Budgie was.
yep, for sure.
So what, they never really broke here in the States.
No.
But great band. Yeah.
I don't
absolutely.
think they toured here enough, and I don't know. They never really got the promotion here for whatever reason. But
It was their horrible mascot. That's what held them back.
yeah, that could be part of it.
The bird.
The little bird was not quite heavy enough, I guess. Right?
And Budgie, I mean, the band's named after the bird, so it's fitting, but yeah, not a good one.
Yeah. And I just mentioned before, my number 4 is going to be Rush, self-titled debut, killer. I mean, still to this day, Working Man is one of my all-time favorite Rush songs. It's just so heavy. I think the album I think has really held up well over the years. It's just such a crushing debut. And yeah, it's so different from everything going forward. But I love Alex's guitar tone on the album. And it's just so many great riffs and screaming solos on it. A lot of really memorable songs. So that's my number 4. And my number 3 is Bridge of Sighs by Robin Trower.
Good
Absolutely
one.
amazing.
And that's only number 3, Pete? Wow.
Well, it's my top 2, but number 3 that's really good. I mean, yeah, Day of the Eagle, the title track is so good. I mean, every song in here is classic. Two Rolling Stones, Little Bit of Sympathy, The Fool in Me, it's all great. Robin's guitar tone is amazing. Jimmy Dewar is just one of the all-time great singers. It's bluesy, it's psychedelic, it's kind of heavy. It's just amazing. Amazing album, one of the great guitar albums of all time. Robin Trower, Bridge of Sighs, my number 3. Back to Chris.
Okay, like Baki, I got the news a little late that we were doing 5, and somehow this album that was meant to be an honorable has now somehow wound up in 2nd place. This is not my number 2 album, but I still like this a lot. Paper Money by Montrose. This is their 2nd album. It has Sammy Hagar on it still.
Wait, you said that's not your 2nd?
No, this would have been an honorable, but I misshuffled my albums, and now it's here.
Rolling.
But Underground, Paper Money, the title track, Space Age Sacrifice, I Got the Fire, great songs. Honestly, it's not really a 1974 thing, but there's a deluxe CD reissue of this with a concert from a radio station that they did that just kills. So if you were ever to go buy this album, skip this and get the re-released special edition, because there's a cool little concert on there. So I think it's about 5 songs. Bonus
Bonnie
tracks.
Live was something else. Yeah.
Yeah, and he kills on that. I mean, he just lets it go. It's really cool to hear. So this is my legit number 1. Might be named by other people. I don't know. I love this album. This is my favorite Kiss album. Every song on here is a classic. Even, Coming Home and like mainline songs that aren't huge in the, Kiss catalog or whatever. They're good. There's all kinds of great shit on here. And it's just so dark and slow and plotting and heavy. And it's
Weird.
kind of almost nothing else. Sorry, Jim. What?
Weird sounding, that album.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of else out there like that, especially that hit, sold as many copies eventually. So hotter than hell.
Weird production on that album.
Yeah.
So many people shit about the production on it, but I've been listening to that album like God, going on not quite 50 years, but close to it, and I've just gotten so used to the way that album sounds, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I go back and forth on it. I mean, I was for a while there. I was like, "Look, sounds like shit." What did they fucking put a blanket on the goddamn amps and this, that, and now it's like, well,
it sounds like. Or
I'm
they
okay. I'm okay with it now.
It's the reason it didn't make it on my list, because I was like, I love all of those songs, and especially like Going Blind is just such creepy and weird. But the
Strange
production,
Ways, Ace's best solo. Some people say,
Strange Ways is a great solo. And yeah, what's the Coming Home? It's such a It's a power pop song coming home. It's such a great.
That's, that's sad to think that you said that it's Ace's best solo and and it's backwards. So that's his best solo. Oh, let's just track it. Just
No,
flip the
people
tape
say
over.
that. I don't say that. Calling Dr. Love is Ace's best solo.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
I think Strange Ways is maybe the coolest sounding solo.
I'll
Yeah.
give you that.
Definitely memorable.
Flush down a toilet. It's great.
Yeah. All right, cool. Rob, your top two.
Well, I have to go with Kiss so too, but I have to go with this album. So this came out when I was 12. I was working. It was probably like I had a paper route or something like that. I remember getting my allowance and buying this album. Didn't even know who Kiss was, but I bought the album, and I remember playing it on my new record player. 12-year-old kid, and I just love this album. I've always loved this album. Of course, I loved it even more when it was on Alive. Just about every song on here is on Alive.
Except,
It brings it up to, and it brings all these songs up to a 10. I definitely agree with all you guys. The live album of always is one of my favorite live albums of all time. But still, this album still rocks, and it brings back a lot of memories. I mean, this is when I loved Kiss, that era in the early 70s, and Hotter Than Hell and Love Gun and all that. So that's my number two. And of course, my number one's going to be Bridge of Sighs, which I also have. Thank you, Ken Golden. I got the 50th anniversary. And I mean, I don't want to repeat what Pete said, but I got into Robin a little later. I didn't get into Robin until like 79, I think it was. My friend of mine, Rob, he's the one that turned me on to Trower, and this is the first album he played, and I've been a fan ever since that day. I've seen Trower almost 30 times, almost every tour. Unfortunately, we don't get to see him this year. He's having surgery this year, but like Pete said, every song here is great. There's not one song I don't love. And just two Rolling Stone alone and Bridge of Sighs, those two classics right there. If you love guitar or you play guitar, I mean, this is the album for you. I tell people you have to listen to this if you're playing guitar, you're even just learning how to play guitar, just listen to this. I mean, for me, he was my hero playing guitar also. And I never get tired of it. I can listen to it over and over again. I listened to it again today. It's just a classic for me. And, it'll always be my number one in 1974.
Awesome. Butch.
Oh,
There we go.
Here we go again. Bridge of Sighs is my number two. My mom got me 3 albums for Christmas, or Santa got them for me for Christmas when I was 10. And this was not one of the 3. I didn't get this album until later, heard it on the radio a bit, Day of the Eagle, Bridge of Sighs, of course. But James Dewar is Dewar, I always say Dewar, has been in my top 3 singers of all time for a very long time. In fact, it's funny, we're doing these top 5, and 3 of my top 5 singers of all time are on this list. So that says a lot for what's going on in the 70s. But yeah, Trower was one of my 3 first guitar heroes when I was a kid, and made me want to play guitar. So that was a no-brainer. And number 1, despite what people on here have said, Burn is without a doubt my favorite Deep Purple album. The combination of Glenn Hughes and David Coverdale, maybe it's not as classic to people that obviously grew up with, Mark II with Ian Gillan. That purple is great. This purple is different than that purple, but to me, having Stormbringer and Burn both released in 74, I can take those 2 Purple albums. I don't need another Deep Purple record as far as I'm concerned. The other ones are awesome. Don't get me wrong. But as far as I'm concerned, Blackmore on this is tremendous. And Glenn Hughes, anytime I get a chance to say something nice about Glenn Hughes, I always take it, because the guy he's a freak of nature. There is nobody on this planet that is 73, 74 years old, touring as much as he does, writing as much as he does it. His material in 2024 is better than the stuff he did 30 years ago. His voice is as strong as it was in 74. The guy doesn't tune down when he's playing at all. Everybody that's in their 60s and 70s is tuned down a full step to help their voice. Glenn Hughes doesn't need it, but that guy is just a freak, and he sounds phenomenal. And God bless Glenn Hughes, and I'll take Burn all day long. So
And let me add to that, Butch. On top of all that you said about him, all of that, despite having done mountains of cocaine in the 70s, and he still looks and sounds like that. He either did a deal with the devil or he's not human. I don't know, one of the two. And I will say, I did speak a little out of turn. It is also my favorite Deep Purple record. A lot of other people say it's not as good, but it's the one, like I said, it's my favorite Purple album. So I'm with you all the way on Burn.
awesome.
Cool. Ralph.
I'm surprised Butch didn't have the Thin Lizzy album in there. I thought that was coming from him.
Nah, it's not this. That's not. I'm going to make people mad, but that's not real Lizzie to me. That's folk Irish Lizzie. They were cutting their teeth and they were on their way, but no,
Yeah.
Not quite.
not quite. Nope.
All right, so I'm going to Mach 3. How come they're the only band that we do the Mach thing with? We don't, nobody else gets that, you know?
Because they're the only
Some
one that
bands
actually
would
called
have-
it that, I think.
Yeah.
Well, you know, this is hard between, I only wanted to pick one album by each band, and for a band to put out two great albums like this,
You have
I
to.
gotta go with Burn, because Burn to me is the number one song of 1974.
Yep.
It's the best drumming that I ever hear from Ian Pacey there, and but Stormbringer is really strong too. You know, the title Stormbringer is from the Michael Moorcock, the Elric of Mellenborn series. That it's the name of his sword. He's always on the covers of the Serith Ungol's album covers. That's his sword there. And he helped Blue Oyster Cult write a song called Black Blade. That's also about that same sword. But yeah, these are both great albums. But I got to go with Burn. It's really amazing. It's not my favorite Deep Purple album, but it's up there. It's in the top 5 for sure. And then my number 1. So last week, this band took a beating by a certain panelist. He shit all over this band. And a lot of people agreed with him in the comments, and they always considered to be a gimmick, and you know, it was for little kids and stuff, and it was about selling coffins and all this other shit. But yeah, here's 2 fucking great classic albums, and there are so many great songs on both of these albums. Just like, you know, Rob is saying how you know, of course, on Alive these songs really come to life, but here's the songs they're recorded. If this was just all about a gimmick, we wouldn't be going back 50 years later and still loving these songs. I mean, there's so many great songs. I'm going to go with the debut, though. I have to go with this. I mean, they're both, it's so close, but Strutter, Nothing to Lose, Firehouse, Cold Gin. I hate Kissing Time. That's the worst fucking song they ever did. But Deuce, Black Diamond, 100,000 Years. But you know, Hotter Than Hell had so many great albums. Parasite's one of my favorite songs by them, and that's on there. And Strange Ways, like he's got to say. But yeah, I got to go with the debut, Kiss, the hottest band in the world.
You know what, Ralph,
it.
though? I tell you, you know, if you were a kid, I say this every time we talk about Kiss, but if you were around when they were coming up, and you were a boy and you liked rock music, I don't care what you listen to now. Maybe your tastes have changed or whatever, but if you were a kid in the 70s, I'm sorry, I wouldn't believe you if you told me you didn't like Kiss at the time.
And not just
Yeah.
being a rock fan, being a monster fan and a comic
Oh,
book
yeah.
fan. These were superheroes come to life to me
Absolutely.
as a little kid. And I don't even argue with people that I get it why people hate them, and you can't like convert somebody at this age, but it's something about the time growing up. And but,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's definitely not just a gimmick, though. I really love these songs. I still go back to these songs all the time, and you know, they're timeless. So
Yep.
they can't
Mhm.
they get shit on all the time, but they don't deserve it.
No, they don't. You're absolutely right.
I mean, we talk about bands that get shit on. Rush gets shit on a lot too. Because people can't stand Geddy Lee's voice, blah blah blah. But it's just, I don't know. Kiss is laughing all the way to the bank.
Yep.
And they have been for 50 years.
And listen, and here's the thing. Okay, so they were a gimmick. All right. Okay, we'll just say 75 because that's where the live record came out. All right. So let's just say 75 going forward. Think about all of the bands and all types of genres that copied them. And I say all types of genres because the first thing I'm thinking about is Parliament Funkadelic. Now, there's a band, and I love P-Funk, but there's a band, there's a black band that was on Casablanca with Kiss, and they took that whole absurdness of that show with a spaceship coming down from the mothership and everything, and took what Kiss did and gave it to the black audience, and they went fucking ape shit. So if Kiss was a gimmick, it was a great gimmick that a whole bunch of other bands have copied for 50 fucking years. So if it's a gimmick, everyone owes a debt of thanks to Kiss for making that gimmick first and being able to sell it, because it's been sold so many times over,
Nobody's influenced more bands than Kiss.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Say it. Every band that came after that was a band that played loud through Marshall amps and grew their hair long and
had a flash pot,
heavy metal. They were all, look, Dimebag Darrell, all those people, huge Kiss fans.
Yeah.
Started with Kiss. Even if they said, all right, screw it, we don't like them anymore. They started because of Kiss. Going forward from like 76 on, if you started a band and you were into hard rock, you started because of Kiss. I'm sorry, you could say you didn't, you're fucking full of shit.
Yep.
End of story.
There's a ton of black and death metal bands too. A lot of black and death metal bands say when we were like 6, 7, 8 years old, we heard Kiss and that was it.
They played
in the beginning. They had a very dark sound.
But they played Kiss at the dances in my high school. I remember they played rock and roll all night, and there was a couple of songs they played. I just remember, and everybody in the whole school was into Kiss. It wasn't just a couple of us; it was everybody.
It may have been fleeting, but everybody was into them for a while. Yeah,
yeah.
It was a cultural thing. It was a cultural thing of the 70s.
If you were a young teenager at that time, not at all the older kids, Hendrix, whatever. If you were a young teenager just getting into music, you fucking loved Kiss. That's all there is to it.
That's all there is to it.
Of course.
I remember arguing with people on the school bus, like the kids that were 2 grades ahead of me, and that was always like, I'd say Ace Frehley blows away Jimi Hendrix, and they'd be like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But to me, there was nobody better. Ace was God.
Ace was the coolest, man.
And of course, they had the Academy Award winning film, The Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
Oh, God. I remember seeing that on TV.
I like that movie. I don't give a fuck.
Well, that's what
I just was with Psycho Circus at the Orange County Fair. It's funny, me and Jim, we both have Orange County fairs, right? I got our fair is much smaller than yours, but it's here in Middletown, Orange County Fair. We had the Psycho Circus guys at the fair, and they actually filmed a little skit, Kiss Psycho Circus meets the Phantom of the Fair. So that's going to be interesting. They had a guy wandering around and pretending to put the power out and stuff while they played. So it's a fun little gimmick.
But listen, I'll tell you, man, when that movie came out that Friday, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a Friday night show.
I remember it.
When you were a kid, your life stopped, and you talked to your friends. You got to be home by in time to watch Kiss.
We watched it. Oh yeah.
My sister and I were glued to the TV. You kidding me?
And the difference then was you couldn't just go watch it like now because it was on TV once and it wasn't on again.
That was it.
It was like when, if you remember when they did, what was it, the Paul Lynde show or whatever, when they were Paul Lynde, and like, wow, Kiss is going to be on TV. You get to see what they look like because that was the only way you saw it. You didn't have, internet. You didn't have VHS tapes even then. You didn't have anything.
Exactly. You didn't have anything.
You looked at Kiss Alive in the dark in your room with your whatever weird black light you had. And listened to the album,
like I got,
and the rest was your imagination, and that was that.
I love
Ace looked a lot different in the Phantom of the Park, though. Ace looked a little different for me.
Ace looked like me.
Oh my God. So
That
Oh,
movie, I tell you, watch that movie now, man. Whew, that's
it's hideous, but at the
Oh,
time,
God.
it's like
It's
your
still
lifestyle.
fun, but it's stupid, but it's fun.
Oh, when you were 10,
you
it was
talk
the
about
shit.
how Kiss influenced other thing. There was an episode of Chips where they had like a
that was
fake
Johnny
Kiss
Most.
band. Yeah, Donnie Most
Donnie
played
Most, yeah.
the mighty Moloch. And that's how I got I used that name in DCM back in the day. I was the mighty Moloch. I'm like, where'd you get that name from? You look
It
like
was
the
like-
dude you look like Abbott. I'm like, I'm the dude from the Chips episode.
Hey man, it was a cultural thing, man. If you were there, you get it. If you weren't, I get that you don't understand.
They had the hit single "Devil Take Me."
The devil take me.
He knows it.
It's so great. Oh, yeah.
You can still find it. It's a Chips episode. It's a
Oh,
good
yeah, it's
yeah.
on
It's
YouTube.
You can probably find on YouTube.
Absolutely. He drove a hearse with flames painted all over it.
Yep. Yep.
And the manager was trying to kill him off or something,
Yeah.
right? Something like that. Yeah.
All right, Steve, your top two.
All right. So my number two, I don't know. No one's mentioned this album yet. And
That's
this
good.
never left my deck back in the day. And unfortunately, they're calling it a day. They can't play anymore with Steven's voice, but Aerosmith, Get Your Wings. Same old song and dance. Lord of the Thighs. I love Spaced. Too Bad. Drank Up the Roll, and of course was all over the radio back then. It's still great. It was such a great song. Seasons of Wither. Listened to it a ton. And that's my number two.
It's
my number one.
It's probably Ryan's number one.
Ryan doesn't understand Aerosmith because he wasn't alive in the 70s. He only grew up after they turned into Bon Jovi.
Not a
In
fan.
his offense.
Not a fan.
You got a gun.
That's what he thought. Yeah, he probably.
Yeah.
But my number one is Burn.
Very good.
I'm copying Butch and a couple others, and I agree with what Ralph said. One of the best Deep Purple songs. I do love the Ian Gillan stuff too, Space
Sure.
Truck and all that. But I don't know what Machine Head might slightly bust it out with me, but I love this record. And You Fool the One. And we've talked about Stormbringer a little bit too, and Lady Double Dealer and
Mach
Stormbringer.
3, baby. Mach 3.
Two great albums, but I'm going with Burn for my number one. I'm sorry I'm losing my voice a little bit.
Uh-oh.
All right, Ryan.
All right, well, I'm surprised this one got mentioned, but it is a great album, but it's a little obscure and like you said, never broke in the States. Fourth album, Welsh band, Budgie, In for the Kill. With
Great
that
record.
awesome logo in that, that great mascot there, a little bird mascot. Yeah, this is probably my favorite Budgie album, although they had some great ones back then, the self-titled Bandolier. Burke Shelley's vocals, that dude could hit some fucking notes. Great voice. I admit the side A is a lot better than side B on this album. Side B is good, but side A is just crushing. In for the Kill, Crash Course in Brain Surgery, Zoom Club. This is one of the first albums. You hear this and you're like, all right, 70s, is there really a split between rock and metal? No, it's all the same shit. It's just one big morass of great music. But you look in hindsight, you're like, man, this is also, not on a level of Kiss, but like just more like composition. You hear this, you're like, you hear a lot of what metal would become like going through the 80s, like a lot of the riffing, a lot of the guitar playing going on. I trace a lot of it to Budgie. I don't think they got a lot of credit for it, but they definitely, Metallica covered them, so they were present in their minds. But yeah, great album, great band. Unfortunately, never really got big in the States. I don't know anybody that ever said they saw them, so I don't know if they were toured over here or
May not have.
I can't think of a single person I know that's like, yeah, I saw Budgie like once in like a state fair in like 70, whatever, Yeah, but yeah, great album, great band.
I know
What's
they
scary is-
they hit a point where they were playing in Texas a lot. I think that was their strongest area here in the States where they would regularly play live shows. And one thing too, Ryan mentioned how heavy that is for the time. Got to remember they took Judas Priest, a very young Judas Priest, under their wing, and Priest opened for Budgie around Europe for like 2 or 3 years straight. So that whole kind of galloping early metal sound.
Yeah, the influence is there, definitely. And you could see the lineage from like this to like a couple of years later, like Sad Wings of Destiny, Sin After Sin. It's almost like a direct progression. So yeah, but they never just got the fame they deserve. But that's just how it goes. And my number one, probably not a secret. Third album from the band. I'd say on some days it's I think their best album or top one or two, but today to me right now I was listening to it before. I'm like, yeah, this is my favorite album by them, and it's Secret Treaties by Blue Oyster Cult. Third album of the black and white era. Every song on this album is a fucking burner. The Dominant Submission, ME262, Harvester of Eyes, Astronomy, Buck and Eric Bloom, the way they're trading back and forth. It's just a beast of an album. It's pointless to even pick out best songs because to me it's just one of their best. And they would grow on to great things after this too. They had a whole string of great albums throughout the 70s. But this to me is when they were still kind of like weird. The lyrics are really esoteric. You don't really know what the fuck they're singing about. You can kind of hint at what they're singing about. I know Martin Popoff has written a great deal on the subject, but just a great band. And to me, probably the peak of their creative right around the mid 70s is really when they were firing on all cylinders. So definitely number one for me is Secret Treaties.
Ryan, did you say that's your favorite BLC record?
If it's not that, it's either Tyranny, Mutation, or that. But I think this one's a little stronger because every track on it to me is a burner. Where on Tyranny, like some songs I think are a lot better than others. This one I'm like, I couldn't even pick the best songs because they're all. As soon as the next song comes on, I'm like, man, this is fucking good. The next song, this is fucking good. So yeah, I'd say this might be my favorite one.
They're one of the, I love BOC, and they're probably the band that I've seen the most in my life. But to me, it's like, and I love those. And like you said, every song on there was a concert favorite, But it's like those early records, the production was the same. There was a lot of bands like UFOs like that to me too. Those early UFO records, the songs are phenomenal. Production's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's like also like early Priest, Sevens of Destiny, great album. Production's a little muddy. Kiss another one, But I guess kind of UFO, kind of how it is with some 70s albums. And then like Rush on like $1 million on a lot of their albums. So
it's funny you mention that because Phenomenon came out in 74 and no one has it listed it yet.
It's on the way. It's on the way.
It's a good album, but yeah, it's a valid complaint. Like I've heard this so much, I'm used to the production, but it could be, these are heavy songs and you want a production that's like getting punched in the head, and it doesn't have that. But
right.
Yeah, that's part of the problem with being in the modern age today is because everything's, loudness wars, everything's pushed, bass, the
Well,
drum.
you know what though? It's not even that though. Because there's like, listen to Burn. Burn sounds awesome.
Yeah,
now, granted,
Burn does have Burn's production superior. There's no doubt.
Yeah, but there's the difference. Purple was one of the biggest bands in the world in 1974.
Yeah,
and UFO and Rush and
Butch was one of the best engineers. That's another reason. It's the engineer, it's the producer.
Yeah, it's not 74. It's earlier, but like Led Zeppelin 4 sounds like $1 million fucking bucks. Like perfect sound.
Led Zeppelin were bigger, and Butch makes a good
Jimmy
point
Page.
with that.
Yeah, but I mean, there's obviously reasons, but still,
sure.
Like that album sounds perfect. Where this one, it's still a little muddy and
Deep Purple had their own 747s, and they're flying around the world.
That's what I'm saying.
Festivals, yeah.
When you have money, you can do what you want.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Jim.
These will come as no surprise to anybody that knows me. Number 2, and I'm holding up the originals, but I'm going with the first Kiss album. Unlike Ralph, I like Kissin' Time. I don't care. I love that song.
They were forced to do that song. They didn't even want to do the song. They were forced to do it for a promotional thing.
I love it. It's a heavy song until the chorus, and it's really poppy. And I like poppy choruses. It's super catchy. I don't care.
We're kissing in Frisco.
It's got like a 50s vibe to it.
Right. It's like a 50s, like a 60s group song. I don't care. I love it. And the verse too, it's pretty heavy.
But Jim, while you got it right in front of you there, what pressing do you have?
This
does it say right on it? Doesn't say on the front?
It's an original pressing. I mean, it's got all the stuff in it.
Because I have that too, but I had the second pressing, and it actually said right on.
Oh yeah, mine says second printing on the top.
Okay, yeah, that's what I got.
I sought this out. It was the first Kiss record I ever got because in 1976 I asked for Alive for Christmas, and my parents gave me this. And when I opened the wrapping, I was like, oh, this is the wrong album. But I was so afterwards, I was so happy because you got all of this great
Yep.
stuff.
You
And
got
all
the cards?
those albums. The cards, yep.
Oh, you got the cards and you didn't even tear them apart.
No, I found this on Etsy. Someone was selling it. I
Okay, you cheated.
long and hard, but I had it originally, but I didn't get to keep it. You know, I got rid of my records a long time ago when I moved, but all of this stuff is intact, and that's what I really wanted was
I know I got a Kiss Army pin somewhere. I don't know where it
I've
is.
got that booklet, but the cards and that Kiss Army thing are long gone.
and the spine is completely thrashed. And I think this is a first pressing,
Okay.
pretty sure.
It's
But
cool.
anyway, getting back to that album, like we said, all but two made it to Kiss Alive. And even though they are the definitive versions, I love these versions of the songs. So they're a little slower, they're a little drier sounding. But so good. First Kiss album is still like there's nothing that's been said that I can't say more. If you were a teenager when Kiss came out,
Or younger.
or younger, you were all in. Yeah. And I certainly was, you know, so that's my number two. And then of course, this is my number one. I have the box. This is the box set version. I guess like a holy grail item for me would be get the original Moon records. But you know, you're spending $3,000 and I ain't doing that. But this album, a lot of Rush fans, you know, discount it because it doesn't have Neil on it. Screw that shit. Great album. Especially this one of my favorite songs here is a song called Before and After. You really hear it kind of starts out quiet, but you really hear what became the Alex Lifeson sound on that song. It's like big arpeggiated open chords. And then it turns into this great kind of Zeppelin-y thing. And Alex Tone is so full of piss and vinegar. He's playing that 335 through a plexi. It's just buzzy and just really overdriven. And his soloing is so aggressive on it. It's like his whole guitar thing is so aggressive. And of course, Geddy Lee's vocals are super aggressive on it too.
It was a peak, man. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think Geddy Lee's vocal peaked on 2112, really. But if you go back and watch like that junior high school concert with them playing it, you realize they went in there and they did talk about it. Like they went in there and just recorded them as they were, and that's how they sounded. If you listen to any of the many live bootlegs that are out from that time, that's just how they sounded. How that record sounds is them and their live sound. There was very little studio, anything going on. They're like, you know, we have no money. Let's record it how we do it and go back and play, you know, the gig, you know, the next night, because they played 4 sets or 5 sets, and then they went in at midnight and recorded that record. So great. And so anybody that says anything about, oh, it doesn't have Neil on it, it's one of their subpar records. Fuck that. It's a great record. It's one of my favorites. So that's my number one.
And they toured extensively with Kiss too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
People forget about that.
Man. Imagine seeing Rush and Kiss together in like 1975. Come on.
I wish I could have, yeah.
Me too.
I think they were opening for Uriah Heep also, and then
First,
2
their
years
first
later it
show with
switched
Neil
around,
was
right?
Uriah Heep, yeah.
Yeah.
And they played with everybody back then, the New York Dolls. I think that's one of the shows that got booed off the stage.
Play with Lizzie.
They played with
Lizzie.
Yeah.
everybody, and even other bands. You went to Kansas, they played with Kansas. They played with Styx. They played with everyone. You look at old concert listings, and yeah, they played with everybody because they were struggling. They were new, you know. So
Rush in Kansas would have been an awesome show to see.
yeah, tell me about it.
Rush took Saxon on their first tour
Oh no,
Yeah.
kidding.
of America.
Oh, that's cool. I did not know that.
I've
What
read
year
that.
was
Yeah.
that?
I don't know. When I seen Saxon not too long ago, he said, I remember being here how many years ago, opening up for Rush on our first tour
It
ever.
had to have been
And it was kind of
1980.
weird because Uriah Heep took Rush out, and then Rush
I think
took
wait a
them
minute.
out years later. But it's weird how Saxon was on with Rush too. So it was like a weird thing with all three bands.
I didn't see Rush until Hemispheres.
Farewell.
Permanent Waves is when I first saw them. I think it was Permanent
Yeah, I
Waves.
saw Farewell to Kings. That was my first,
That's cool.
and they were amazing. Yeah, and still they're my favorite band, so that's going to be the top of my list for obvious reasons.
All right, my final two. Number two is Secret Treaties by Blue Oyster Cult. Yeah, it's my favorite Blue Oyster Cult album. Murky and muddy, it's fine, but songs are just great. It's got Astronomy on it. Career of Evil, Subhuman is, I think, probably my favorite song on the album. It's just so good. Dominance and Mission, Enemy 262, Flaming Telepaths. It's all great. Love Blue Oyster Cult from this time period. That's my number two. And number one, no surprise,
No surprise.
is Burn.
I think it wins the night.
Yeah, I think so, right? I think so.
It
Yeah, I
should.
mean, you know, everybody knows In Rock is my favorite Deep Purple album, but this is probably number two. It's either number two or number three, depending on my day, but I love it. And Burn is probably my second favorite Deep Purple song of all time. It's a classic. And the rest of the album is great too. I like the bluesy stuff. I like Mistreated. As Steve mentioned, You Fool No One is killer. And on the Made in Europe live album, it's even
Oh,
more.
yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, great album. And just I love the Mark III era of the band. It's almost like a shame it only lasted as long as it did, even though, you know, Mark II is my favorite, but I love Mark III, and it's just amazing. I talk about this all the time, but like, you know, Richie was so like upset with the Stormbringer album and didn't like the direction of the band at all, and, you know, announced before the tour that he was leaving, but he would finish out the tour commitments. And then they go on and do this tour. And if you listen to some of the recordings from that Stormbringer tour, it's some of Blackmore's best playing ever in any band. And he like went out with a bang, especially like that last week of shows in Europe, and specifically like in France and Graz. I mean, some of Blackmore's best playing, and the band was just gelling like 100%. And to think that, you know, at the end of that tour, he was basically like, all right, gone. And it was Rainbow, which, you know, we got Rainbow out of it, right? So I guess it
We
had
got
to be.
Rainbow out of it. I was going to say we did get Rainbow.
That's
Yeah,
why we wouldn't have those great Rainbow albums. So
yeah, for sure. But yeah, so that's my number one, Burn. Anybody got any honorables they just want to rattle off real quick?
I got one.
Chris, you got any? No.
Don't let Ralph go.
Been mentioned by people already.
I got two.
Sorry, Rob,
Somebody's
what do you
talking
got?
about Priest
Rock and
now,
roll.
yeah.
Rock and
Bebop
roll of
Deluxe Axe
1974.
Victims.
I didn't, you know, I became a Priest fan obviously in 1978, 77, 78. And this album was always on the back burner. But as I got older, like I said with Rush, I really enjoy this album more now that I'm older and it's been around for 50 years. This is the reason why Priest has been around 50 years. Yeah, it was. I wouldn't even like Jimmy was saying about subpar. I don't think this is subpar. I think there's a lot of good stuff on here. It just didn't really have any hits except for Never Satisfied. You know, that was
Oh, it's a hit.
Yeah, and Rock and Roll. Rock and Roll. Actually, Priest did Rock and Roll recently on I don't know if it was last tour, the tour before that.
Last tour. Yeah, last tour.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to hear that. You know,
Production again.
but
The
again,
production makes it
but
sound
the
dated.
production's been fixed, Butch. It sounds much better than the original. I had the original, and this sounds much better.
Is it remixed or just remastered?
It's well, I guess it's remastered, but
It
it
had to
sounds
be remixed to really make a difference.
remixed.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, they did. So, but that's my honorable mention.
It's a
And
good
this
album,
one-
but the three albums after it are just they're fucking steamrollers.
Oh yeah, they
No
found
stopping
they found their way.
And then that's it. Especially the time you get to Stained Class, that's like it's like a fucking nuclear bomb going off. So,
Yep.
but it's a cool. It is still a cool album, I admit.
Oh yeah.
And Get Your Wings would be my other one.
Yeah, that's a great one. What you got any
Bebop.
left?
Bebop Deluxe Axe Victims. I love Bill Nelson. If people out there don't know who Bill Nelson is, he is a phenomenal guitar player. Don't let the looks. If you see a picture of him with Bebop Deluxe, don't let the way he looks fool you. They look like they're like a mod kind of new wave thing. No. That guy's a genius.
Yeah. He's a good guitar player.
And I gotta tell you, here's the drinking game. My glass is almost was kind of empty, but I found out about him from John Sykes. John Sykes had mentioned in an interview in the early 80s about Bebop Deluxe Sunburst Finish, and saying that his uncle turned him on, and if Sykes said it, I went and checked it out, and goddamn was he right.
Great player. Great player.
Oh my God.
I guess I got a mention that we haven't mentioned tonight would be Steely Dan Pretzel Logic.
Yeah, that's on my list as well. Great album.
Okay.
That's
And,
probably my favorite of Steely Dan's too.
there's another pretty legendary band with no one, I don't think anybody mentioned, but Pete, you got the t-shirt on Queen, put 2 albums out that year.
Yeah, they're on my list. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I would say a runner-up also, an honorable mention would be Grand Funk Shining On.
Yep.
That's a
Oh,
good
yeah.
one.
Cool record. Had a couple of big hits on that, and some good, kind of rock song. The song Shining On.
I find Grand Funk that where they're such a huge band back then to be one of those bands, for me selling records and stuff that no one remembers Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah,
Grand
well,
Funk.
They were
the big band in the
huge.
70s.
Yes.
Oh,
That is
always on the radio.
Shea Stadium in 71. They
Mhm.
were huge. And then they had the hits. Back then they didn't have any radio hits.
No, but
Mhm.
Had
the
this
live album and Red, or the Red album, are
the Red album is
great. So heavy.
so great.
It's fucking heavy as shit.
Heavy as shit. Yeah.
Grand Funk were humongous in the early 70s.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a weird way, it was FM radio, no AM radio, and just concert appearances. They were,
But like Steve said, they sold out Shea Stadium faster than the Beatles.
yeah.
Yep.
That was before any of like their mega hits,
Yep.
Like
They were
71,
pretty
I
like-
think.
I'm Your
Well,
Captain was the only big song they had. And that was that year that tour that they sold it out.
Their early stuff is mean sounding. It's
Yeah.
fucking, it's
Keith
fucking
Richards
really
was
mean.
a
It's
burner.
a different band.
The Locomotion used to get a lot of AM radio play.
I remember that
It
single
did.
when it came out, and I loved it. But
I
Yeah.
was in 6th grade when that came out.
Yeah.
Sixth, seventh
I've got one that no one is going to mention. It's probably not on anybody's list either, but it is a tremendous record. Todd Rundgren's Utopia.
Oh, wow.
That
Awesome album.
debut,
First album is great. Yeah.
it's heavy, man. It's heavy and instrument. Oh man, it's a great record.
Big,
Holy
long,
shit.
half-hour songs and stuff. Yeah.
That's some good stuff.
I got
And Rundgren gets to play some guitar on that, man.
Pete, I got 5 honorable mentions. I'll go through them real quick. It's been mentioned, but it deserves another mention because it's a fucking great album. Not Fragile. Yep, great fucking album. So good. One album which I thought somebody was going to mention and nobody mentioned it. And in fact, the band name hasn't been mentioned at all, which is a little weird because to me it's their best album, or maybe they're one or top 2. But Red by King Crimson.
That's on my honorables list. Yep.
Yeah, what a fucking be Starless. Oh my god, so good. Love this.
I tried to stay clear of Prague on my list, but I have
Fair enough.
Prague
That's
album.
what I did.
I was
didn't like Prague.
expecting what's the Genesis album that came out in 74? I was expecting that to be on somebody's
Oh,
list.
Is that Lamb Lies Down or
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Now,
stuff.
Ralph mentioned Hawkwind. Actually, speaking of Elric and Michael Moorcock, I think Warrior at the Edge of Time by Hawkwind also is the same Stormbringer, that same character from the Eternal Champion.
Michael
cycle. So
Moorcock actually wrote a whole bunch of lyrics for Hawk.
For Hawk- yeah.
He
Now-
worked with them a lot.
different album, 1974 though, but Hold the Mountain Grill. Great album. Cool.
Could be my favorite.
Psychedelic Warlords, Disappear in Smoke. Fucking great song. And maybe the weirdest band and weirdest album that I didn't think anybody was going to mention and nobody did, but it's cool, is a weird LA-based pop rock duo. I think it's fucking great. Band of Sparks, Kimono My House. Cool
That's
album. Cool
The
band.
best
Yeah.
album right there. Yep.
It's very, very cool. Just a weird, the vocals are very high falsetto, but I always like this album. So that's all. And I couldn't find my CD, but the first Bad Company album for sure is fucking tremendous.
Yeah, that to me was so obvious. It's like every song was
It's
pretty much every song was like a hit,
It is, but it's so good. It's such a good
It's
album.
phenomenal.
It's just
phenomenal.
absolutely out of this world good. So that's all I got.
Ralph,
Yeah.
you got any left?
Humble Pie.
Got a couple.
74.
What?
Humble Pie.
Thunderbox came out. In
Yeah, I was gonna say Thunderbox, you know?
Yeah, they were kind of past their prime.
Yeah. hmm.
Yeah, Ralph.
Yeah, I had BTO out too because of doing the Rock Fantasy Files. That's another one. After I heard it, I had to go out and get it. I was surprised that no one had UFO Phenomenon in there, Rock Bottom, and What's the other? Yeah, a
That
couple of-
album, it's phenomenal. I bought it and I listened to it a lot. The
And
thing
you
that
put it away.
the thing that bugs me about that record, as a musician, is this weird tuning. Like the guitars are sharp. Sometimes Phil Mogg is singing sharp. Like they're out of tune. Like I don't know what was going on, but like some of the guitars not in tune with the bass. Some of the vocals are too sharp. And I listened to like Rock Bottom, like when he says, "Where do we go from here?" and they go into the guitar solo. Like Phil Mogg is so sharp, I got to shut it off. I'm like, who is listening? It really bugs me because like they got it so right on the live album, but like he sings really sharp on that entire song, and it just hurts to listen to. So I like it because they have so many great songs on it, but the production and the fact that they're out of tune a lot really just like it hurts. So but it's still a great record. It's just one of those weird things for me.
Also, the Thin Lizzy Nightlife is worth a mention. There's definitely a few good songs on there. Rolling Stones, It's Only Rock and Roll hasn't gotten mentioned.
Yeah.
A couple really good songs on there. Odds and Sods by The Who, Long Live Rock is on there. And here's one that hasn't gotten mentioned. The band that was opening up for the Mark III lineup, and Richie Blackmore was so impressed by the opening band that he pretty much stole everybody in the band and started his own band. But Carolina Country
Oh
Blues,
yeah, I was
Country-
just gonna mention that
Oh.
Mr. Dio had a album that year. Yes, guy.
I thought if Chris Allo was on here, he probably would have had
Yeah.
them in there. So I had him as an honorable mention. But I listened to it today, and there's some times where you really hear that great Dio voice. There's a lot of weird boogie woogie stuff, some southern kind
A lot
of
of that, yeah.
sounding stuff, but you hear at times that perfect, great Ronnie James Dio voice. That's it.
I have one more, and then I'm done.
All right, what do you got?
Grateful Dead, Mars Hotel.
There you go.
Some of their best songs are on that album too.
You really needed to mention that, huh?
50th
Yeah.
anniversary
Hey,
box set just came out.
But
I got
Pete had it
one
too.
more. No, you don't.
Come on, Butch.
You could have stopped right there. You could
I
have
see
stopped before
Butch-
you said it.
I see Butch at all the Dead tributes in the Hudson Valley. Every time he wears his tie-dye shirts and
I'm
he's got
telling
his Rasta wig on.
Oh my
All
god.
right, I don't know if I have anything that has been mentioned. A lot of ones have already been mentioned, but Queen 2 and Sheer Heart Attack, both. The
Mhm.
Kansas self-titled debut is one.
Wow.
I had King Crimson Red. Frank Zappa apostrophe.
Oh,
No,
I'm looking at my list here.
I thought Chris was going to mention that one for sure. And the only other one that has been mentioned is Styx Man of Miracles.
Man, we missed a lot, actually.
Yeah, that was a good record too. There's good stuff on that one.
Wow.
Part of the Rainbow.
There's some.
Never even thought
No
of
one
that.
said sheer heart attack.
Yeah.
Sheer Heart Attack's a heavy dude. That's a good one.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a great album.
Yeah.
No one
Yeah.
said ELP. Welcome back, my friends. No one said Scorpions. Fly to the Rainbow.
That's
Wow,
right.
Yeah, that's true.
Boy,
Another one.
ELP.
here-
New York Dolls, Too Much Too Soon, and John Lennon.
Don't worry,
Walk
we'll
Off
get
the
killed in the
Bridges.
comments.
But it's hard when you only got 5. That's why none of these are in my
Yeah,
list.
you gotta think of what your favorites were, and those are the ones
Exactly.
I listened to the most.
I'm going by what was my favorites, mostly when I was 12 years old.
100%. It's about your favorites.
Yeah,
But Spooky.
ELP did that was the live album that came out that year, right? But-
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Richard?
Spooky Tooth the Mirror.
Great
That's
album,
a great
man.
record too.
It is all those Spooky Tooth albums are really good. Cool. All right, everybody. Your assignment is to list your 5 favorites from 1974. A great year, 50-year anniversary for all these albums. List them down in the comments below. If we didn't pick your favorite, that's okay. We all have our favorites. That's what you got to do. List your favorite down below. And we'll see you next time here on the Hudson Valley Squares. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together. All the damn time. See you next time in 2 weeks on the Squares. For Chris Canzaneri, Rob Lasante, Butch Jones, Count Ralphus, Steve Keeler, Ryan Scout, and Jim Baki, IP Pardo. Good night, everybody. See you later. Take care. Bye-bye.